It opens with a ritual, not a ceremony. A collective surrender, bodies seated, eyes closed, surrounded by fire. Their leader touches one forehead, and the flames answer. No screams, no panic, just faith, going up in smoke. Bad Dreams arrived in 1988, dismissed as a shallow echo of A Nightmare on Elm Street. The comparisons were easy: dreams, trauma, spectral threats. But Bad Dreams wasn't chasing nightmares. It was excavating something far more grounded and more dangerous. Instead of surrealism, it offered fluorescent corridors and medical files. Instead of demons, it gave us psychiatrists, pills, and hypnosis. Its horror was institutional, dressed in white. Ignored by the box office, the film found its afterlife on TV reruns and cult VHS swaps. But its atmosphere lingered, dreamlike, but clinical. A hospital that never heals, a face in the window no one else sees. Time passed. Then things surfaced. Alternate takes, discarded footage, offhand comments in interviews. And like that, Bad Dreams started looking less like a forgotten thriller and more like something buried on purpose. It wasn't just a movie, it was a reconstruction of trauma. And the people behind it didn't always agree on what they'd built. Here are 20 weird facts you didn't know about Bad Dreams. Truths distorted, scenes misplaced, and just enough left unsaid to make you wonder, was this horror or something misdiagnosed? Fact 1. The cult scene was based on actual fire. The film's opening doesn't ease you in. It throws you straight into flames, a group of followers embracing death by fire, guided by a calm, smiling leader. It feels theatrical, but its roots weren't fiction. Writers drew directly from real tragedies, notably Jonestown and a lesser-known California sect that once practiced cleansing fire rituals. Director Andrew Fleming debated how literal the cult should be. In the end, he chose real over myth belief without magic, horror without fantasy. Originally, the film was meant to open after the blaze with ruins, not the act itself. But audiences in early screenings felt lost, unsure what had happened. So the studio flipped the timeline. The fire became the first image, a trauma branded into both the film and the viewer. This shift gave the story a brutal weight. We see what Cynthia is trying to forget and what she'll be asked to relive over and over. Was this a creative decision or damage control? In either case, it ensures you remember how the nightmare started and exactly what it left behind. Fact 2. Jennifer Rubin faced the flames herself. Cynthia's emergence from the fire is surreal. She steps through smoke, dazed, until a gentle touch from Harris triggers a sudden ignition. It's a defining image, and most of it wasn't special effects. Jennifer Rubin was told there'd be heat effects. She didn't expect open flame near her costume. According to crew accounts, a stray spark caught her sleeve. The scene kept rolling. Her reaction wasn't fully rehearsed, it was real. Rubin later spoke about the moment vaguely, calling it intense and very physical, but others were more direct. There was no double, one crew member said. She walked through it for real. It wasn't a stunt gone wrong. It was a performance made sharper by real risk, the kind that makes a scene resonate longer than intended. Did it cross a line, or did it reveal one? Sometimes fear isn't performed, it's captured. Fact 3. The hospital wasn't built, it was found. Cynthia wakes up in a psychiatric hospital. Quiet rooms, blank walls, therapy circles. It looks too convincing to be a set. That's because it wasn't. The production team shot inside a real, closed-down mental health facility in California. The building had been shut for years but left intact, peeling wallpaper, rusted fixtures, even old furniture still in place. The filmmakers were told they could use the location as long as they altered as little as possible. What you see in the film is nearly untouched. Even the mirrored therapy room existed exactly as shown. Several crew members later reported feeling disoriented during those scenes. One got sick. Another joked the place was still working, even without patients. No filters, no CGI, just an abandoned ward doing what it always did, wearing people down. Was it budget saving? Or atmosphere they couldn't have faked if they tried? Either way, the location acted on its own terms. Fact 4. The mirror wasn't in the script and almost didn't stay. Early in the story, Cynthia sees a strange reflection in the mirror, not a ghost, but something subtly off. It's a quiet, unsettling moment, and it almost didn't exist. That shot wasn't part of the original plan. The studio asked for it late in production, worried the story didn't clearly signal any paranormal threat. Director Andrew Fleming resisted. He preferred keeping the horror ambiguous, rooted in psychology. But after seeing a rough cut using a simple dissolve and a look-alike, he approved it. What makes the moment effective is what it doesn't show. The reflection changes slightly, not enough to be obvious, just enough to feel wrong. In international releases, the moment is longer and the face more visible. Some argue that version ruins the tension. Others say it clarifies the story. Either way, it divides fans. Did the mirror reveal a haunting or just a fracture in Cynthia's mind? The most disturbing scenes are often the ones where nothing moves but everything changes. Fact 5. A death scene was lifted from a real medical case. The first death happens suddenly. A patient throws himself from a window. No build-up, no explanation. But the idea wasn't fictional. Screenwriter Stephen E. D'Souza borrowed it from a decades-old psychiatric report. A man, recently released from a mental hospital, jumped to his death, claiming someone was waiting in the trees. That exact phrase was used in Bad Dreams. Initially, the film showed the aftermath. Sirens, broken glass, reactions. But audiences were more shaken by what they didn't see. So they cut those shots, keeping the moment clean and abrupt. That change altered the film's rhythm. Suddenly, nothing felt stable. Even silence became suspicious. Was it suicide, possession, or something none of them had the tools to diagnose? The story never says, and that silence lingered. Fact 6. The dreams came later and didn't match. When Cynthia begins seeing Harris in her dreams burned, whispering, impossible, the tone of the film shifts. But those scenes weren't filmed with the rest of the movie. They came after editing had begun. The studio wanted the hallucinations to feel more stylized, so the team returned for pickups, shooting dream moments out of order and under tighter constraints. The result? Inconsistencies. Harris's clothing shifts, Cynthia's hairstyle slightly changes. But the crew kept them in. They felt the flaws added to the dream, logic fractured, unsteady, intrusive. In one shot, Harris moves backward as he speaks, footage reversed in post to make his movements uncanny. It wasn't planned, it worked. Are the dreams memories, warnings, or programmed suggestions? When the timeline blurs, meaning collapses. And that's where Bad Dreams wants to keep you. Fact 7. The group sessions were barely scripted. The therapy circle becomes the film's emotional center, a group of unstable patients, each exposing fragile truths. But many of those scenes weren't tightly written. Fleming gave the cast broad prompts and let them react in character. Some lines were improvised, others were lifted from the actors' personal experiences. One performer broke down mid-scene and asked to stop. Fleming told her to keep going. The rawness paid off. The sessions feel uncomfortable because they are. Jennifer Rubin later said she didn't always know where the performance ended. What started as structureless improvisation turned into something more truthful and more damaging. Were these therapy scenes scripted drama or something closer to confession? Maybe both. Fact 8. The bathtub scene was quiet then made louder. A patient dies in the tub. It's silent, clean, and eerie. But that wasn't the first version of the scene. Originally, the sequence played out with minimal sound. No score, just water and stillness. Fleming liked the idea death as something quiet. But when shown to a test audience, the silence didn't unsettle. It disconnected. So composer Jay Ferguson added a low building tone, not music, but something like pressure. The blood in the water, which once appeared at the very end, was moved earlier in the scene. Audiences needed something visual to fear. The result, a slow shift from calm to dread, with no single moment to flinch at, just a rising discomfort. Did they lose subtlety? Maybe. But what they gained was a different kind of terror, the kind that creeps instead of shock. Fact 9. Richard Lynch refused to break character. As Harris, Richard Lynch barely speaks but always unnerves. Off-screen, he wasn't much different. Cast and crew noticed he kept his distance during breaks, often staying in full costume, eyes locked on nothing in particular. He'd repeat lines under his breath. One tech claimed Lynch shadowed the actors even when not in the scene, watching them rehearse silently. Lynch wasn't new to playing disturbing figures, but something about this role seemed to pull him deeper. Rubin later said she couldn't tell if he was trying to stay in character or just already there. Whatever the method, it worked. Harris doesn't feel like a villain. He feels like a memory that refuses to leave. Fact 10. One kill was removed from TV for good. In the original cut, a patient ends their life with a shard of mirror, a brutal, sudden moment. But if you saw the film on cable, chances are you didn't. The sequence was pulled from televised versions entirely. Censors flagged it as excessively disturbing, even though the camera cut away before impact. Bootleg VHS copies later surfaced, showing a longer version, more blood, more setup, and a convincing prosthetic. Oddly, the producers never pushed to restore it. Maybe they agreed it went too far, or maybe they didn't want audiences to sit with what it implied. Because it wasn't just graphic, it was quiet, isolated, and far too close to something real. Fact 11. The therapy room had no roof for a reason. The group therapy scenes are claustrophobic, but the set wasn't. In fact, the therapy room had no ceiling. This wasn't just technical, it was intentional. Removing the ceiling let the camera look down, making patients appear small, observed, boxed in. But it caused problems. Unpredictable lighting, dropped equipment, even an almost fire when a light fixture overheated. More than that, it changed the energy. Rubin recalled feeling vulnerable, exposed in a space meant to feel closed. Symbolically, it fit. The ward pretends to protect, but everything above them is wide open. Just enough space for something to watch back. Fact 12. A real doctor rewrote the psychiatrist's dialogue. Dr. Beresford is calm, articulate, and oddly impersonal. Originally, his lines were written like textbook monologues. Then a real psychiatrist was brought in to consult and rewrote most of them. He told the writers that real doctors talk less. They guide. They reflect. They don't explain everything. That advice changed the character entirely from medical authority to something less clear. In the final cut, Beresford never says too much. He listens, he waits, and in that stillness, viewers begin to suspect him. Is he helping Cynthia or controlling her? When a therapist doesn't talk much, it's hard to know if you're being heard or handled. Fact 13. One throwaway line revealed everything. In one therapy session, Cynthia mutters, "Maybe he's not dead, just somewhere else." It's quick, easy to miss, but it was meant to be a turning point. Early drafts highlighted this line as a major clue. The filmmakers wanted the audience to question Harris's nature, Ghost, survivor, illusion, but it was buried lost between another patient's outburst and a loud music transition. Few noticed. The moment slipped by without impact. Years later, fans revisiting the film started pointing to this line as the moment the illusion should have cracked. Instead, it whispered past. A puzzle piece dropped before anyone realized what it was. Fact 14. Silence made the makeup scarier. Harris's burned face doesn't scream, it stares. Still, calm. What made it disturbing wasn't just the look, but how it was created. Richard Lynch asked that his prosthetics be applied in total silence. No chatter, no soundtrack. He wanted to become Harris without distraction. Hours each day, he sat unmoving, staring into a mirror. It rubbed off. The crew started speaking more quietly. Some avoided the trailer altogether. The final touch, a glossy coat to make the wounds look fresh, was Lynch's idea. He didn't want the burns to look healed. He wanted them to linger. That stillness carried onto the screen. Harris never had to raise his voice. His face said everything. Fact 15. The hallway scene was meant to be loud, then wasn't. As the story nears its climax, Cynthia walks alone through a dim hallway. No dialogue, no soundtrack, just her breath. The original script included spoken lines, fear, confusion, whispered names, but on set, Fleming changed direction. He told Rubin to stay silent. Let the corridor speak. That one choice changed the tone of the entire third act. Without words, the moment becomes pure mood, empty space, flickering lights, and the sense that something unseen is close. Rubin later called it the most honest moment of the shoot. When fear stops talking, all that's left is what you feel. Fact 16. The ending was changed after a laugh. In the original version, Harris was supernatural, a ghost returning to claim Cynthia. He burned in the fire and came back. That version screened once. The audience laughed. The moment didn't land. His fiery reappearance looked too theatrical. One executive called it more Ghostbusters than horror, so the team reworked it. Instead of a spirit, Harris became human alive, manipulative, hiding in plain sight. He wasn't haunting Cynthia, he was drugging her, guiding her breakdown. The visual effects were scrapped. A new climax was filmed. No ghosts, just a man in a lab coat, weaponizing therapy. And suddenly, Bad Dreams wasn't a ghost story at all, it was psychological warfare in a medical ward. Fact 17. Jennifer Rubin asked to remove one shot. In the final act, Cynthia realizes the truth. There's a quick close-up. Her face shifts, eyes wide. It's subtle, but clear. Rubin didn't want it. After filming Wrapped, she asked the director to cut the shot. She felt it made Cynthia too aware too soon. Let the audience catch up later, she argued. Keep it uncertain. Fleming refused. He believed the story needed that anchor, a moment when the viewer knows the protagonist sees what they've suspected. Rubin disagreed. Let them doubt longer, she said years later. That single frame created a split. Clarity for some, ambiguity lost for others. Fact 18. Fire returned, but not the way you expect. The climax brings the fire back, but not as before. Cynthia walks through flames that feel imagined, not real, because they were. The corridor wasn't safe for pyrotechnics, so the team used projection, smoke, fans layering illusions. The flames were light tricks, the fear was real, and then Harris burns. This time, with real fire effects, a callback, a reversal. What most viewers don't know, Richard Lynch had survived a fire in real life. The scars stayed. Now, his character burns too. Was it poetic? Morbid? Maybe both. Sometimes, horror comes full circle and catches again. Fact 19. The last line was dubbed not delivered. Cynthia's final words, "I think I'm going to be okay," feel like closure. But they weren't in the original script. She was first written to say, "I don't dream anymore." It was blunt, too grim. Audiences recoiled. A second line was tried, "Maybe now I can sleep." Still didn't land, so they dubbed in a safer version during post-production. A line that sounded hopeful. But if you look closely, Ruben's mouth says something else. The ending you hear isn't the one she performed. It was added later, a decision made in the editing room, not on set. So which version is real, her lips or the voice they gave her? Fact 20. The sequel was meant to expose the therapist. Dr. Beresford walks away at the end. No answers, no guilt, just quiet. That wasn't always the plan. A proposed sequel revealed he'd been part of the cult, a believer who infiltrated the system. He wasn't helping Cynthia, he was guiding her towards something else. The sequel never happened, but that idea still shadows the final scene. Beresford says little, watches much, never breaks character. He doesn't say goodbye, doesn't explain, just leaves. And maybe that's what makes him the most dangerous figure in the film. Bonus fact. No one wanted to touch the dummy. The body in the bathtub scene wasn't CGI. It was a silicone dummy, lifelike and exact. Too exact. After filming, it was stored in a locked room. The next day, someone found it moved. The door was still locked. No one took credit. Crew members refused to use it again. One called it wrong. Another said it felt present. Eventually, the dummy was tossed. Not reused, not stored, just discarded. No one logged it. No one asked where it went, and no one wanted to be the last person to look it in the eye. Was Harris a ghost, or just a man who knew how to disappear? And more importantly, was this a story about survival, or about never truly waking up? Tell us in the comment, which fact felt buried on purpose, and what other forgotten films should we dig up next?